I built this spawn room. So the spawn room is basically a room where these can spawn, right? So where the mycelium can grow in the pasteurized substrate. So I'm going to give you a little tour of the spawn room. It's pretty cool. So again, it is double doored. So you go through the first door and you go into the second door. And so this is the spawn room. And so as you can see, I've used greenhouse plastic to seal in. I put a double wall for insulation, but also just in case something gets cut on the outside, it doesn't bleed through the inside. Pretty simple structures, right? If you had the ability to go a little more permanent, you could. It's closed. It's all waterproof because water does exist. I do have a few sticky fly traps just in case something sneaky gets in, and they'll go to those. I put them on the light side of things because most of these insects are attracted to light. The fungus gnats, believe it or not, are. And you can see a few have captured themselves there. You can see these are all my shelves. So they're shelved for the baskets. I want to come in here and put secondary shelves to be able to put some bags because I've been able to grow shiitakes out of pasteurized substrates. So those will go in here. And so basically the components of my spawn room: waterproof walls, shelving to put the substrate. The nice thing about mushrooms, you can grow and stack it. So I have 3 layers here to really maximize this space. Minimal airflow in a spawn room. Ideally, you want it pretty filtered. For me, I have one tube. I don't know if you can see it down there, coming in down there. This was a second thought to get a little more air. My preliminaries were those tubes there that were just ambient airflow, so those still work. The other one has a fan hooked to it, which is kind of nice, so I can turn on and add air into here if I need. So here you can see that fan right here. This is a refrigerator fan. It's 12 bucks where I live. Super easy. This is actually hooked up here, and I can put it on a timer if I want. During the spawn run, you're going to get a high CO2 situation, which is good. Fungus, when it's spawn running, can handle a very high CO2, but not too high, right? When this thing is in full bore, like the levels are off my CO2 meter, like way high. My outport is up there, right? You have to have the CO2 go somewhere. So I have the highest point because CO2, while it is heavier than oxygen, while it is heavier than air, normally it'd sink to the bottom, it's going to be hot. The mycelium is creating heat, so that CO2 comes off hot and it's actually going to rise up and out of the room. Something to remember. It took me a while of research to realize that. So I've got my outport up high, so that's pulling CO2 and heat out of the room, where you can see my input is low. So naturally you get a convection happening that's pulling stuff out. It's sucking in new air while it pushes out hot air. I have fans hooked to both of those on a digital thermometer. I also have humidity sensors. So this is a humidity sensor. So this is monitoring the humidity in this room. Since I use this room initially to grow oyster substrate, I've pre-poked holes in the oyster substrate. You'll see them. And so those holes are punched in those columns because that's where the mushrooms are going to fruit out of. And so I want a way so that the baskets, when they're in mycelial state, don't totally dry out. So I've got this contraption that we've rigged up. This is my humidifier. So what this is a blower. This is a fan. This is rigged outside. I'll show you where that connects. This right down under here, that's my humidifier that's on a float. It's an ultrasonic humidifier. So that's attached to this wire right here that goes to where the wires to the fan do. This cord here is powering the ultrasonic humidifier, and then this white one is plugged into the same outlet. And this outlet, or this white one, goes to the fan. So that outlet though, there's a cord that runs back, up, around, over to here, where is my little control station. My control station, humidity and temperature, right? So you can see the readout, the humidity in that room right now is 55.3, the temperature is 80.1. So check this out. So now I've got it set to hold that room at 45. So it's at 55, right? So it doesn't need to turn anything on. But if I took it up, say I want that room at 60% humidity, now I set it. Can you guys hear that on the video? I don't know if you can or not. We're going to go inside and I'll show you. You'll be able to hear it inside. So what that did is it ran power up and over to that outlet I just showed you, and it turned on the humidifier and the fan. So you can see now that's pushing air into this little space. You probably can't tell, but you see that thing bubbling. You probably can see the humidity there. That's doing an ultrasonic humidity. So basically what an ultrasonic humidity is just like a little white disc. I'll show you one at some point. And it vibrates it at a super high frequency that will actually create humidity. Excuse me. It creates humidity that's like a fog, right? Which is what you want, a fog. It's way better than the misters, which create droplets. Of course, I use misters too. And I debated both, but I figured I'd have less mold issues if I did this. So you obviously can't, I'm wondering if you can't see it. Anyway, you're gonna have to take my word for it. When I put my hand over this right now, I feel air coming out. If I hold it long enough, like even now, I just start feeling there's moisture on my hand building up. I can feel it. And so, yeah, it works actually really well. And it also helps kind of circulate this room. It's refreshing. If you wanted to do a system like this, but you needed more humidity, you could make this so I could actually show you it on the video. You would just use a lot more of those ultrasonic humidity discs. Like 3 would probably do the trick to see it. Also, the other thing you'll notice, light, all right? I like that there's a little light. So I don't have a light bulb in this room, which is nice, 1, to work with, and 2, I'm gonna show you in a later video, I have figured out how to grow shiitake mushrooms on a pasteurized substrate. It's awesome, it's amazing. But shiitake especially really responds to light, and it's very important in the spawn run, so it works out really well. They actually, my shiitake blocks actually form better in this room than in my lab because they get this light, and it's a lot more light than in my lab because when I'm not in my lab, it's dark. And so the other nice thing, it's a little messy, excuse the mess. I'm gonna pasteurize here in a few days. This is my pasteurization room. I'm gonna go into further detail on that in another video. But notice it's right next to my spawn room. So very minimal carrying effort that I have to do, which is really awesome. I used to pasteurize down right outside of my lab and carry it up here and put it in those plastic bags. It was a friggin' nightmare and added hours to my work. So any way you can minimize that, the better. Thanks for checking it out. Ciao.